we want to have a look at the missing final whistle.
The missing minute.
The missing minute. Let's hear it.
There is a development in this, and it's an interesting one. Now, if we go wind back to Sunday's show, and I said to you that I thought that Hearts were preparing a statement about the aforementioned missing minute, and it didn't materialise, and that was despite the fact that a number of journalists had been informed something would be coming. Didn't materialise. It's now my understanding that on Sunday, I think Sunday afternoon, while this document was being prepared, the statement was being written, Hearts were in receipt of the audio from the officials at Celtic Park on the Saturday. I believe that it was sent to them by the SFA. I have asked for that audio. Unfortunately, that request has not yet been accepted, probably unlikely to be. I don't know why. But Hearts have listened to the audio. And sources tell me that in the audio, Don Robertson can be said saying that he's calling the game. Now, that doesn't explain the absence of a final whistle. As we've said, these were chaotic scenes. I think there needs to be a bit of common sense approach to that. As we've said earlier, there's no textbook for a referee in these circumstances how to deal with them. I think Don Robertson's done the best job that he can. All I'm saying is, and what I don't know yet is, so Hearts have got receipt of the audio. They've listened to it. They chose not to put out the statement that they were preparing for Sunday. Now, I don't know. Does that mean Hearts are satisfied with what they hear and that the issue is now over as far as they're concerned? That is possible. Or is there something else in the audio that they want to raise subsequent questions about? I'm not sure. I'm struggling with why the audio isn't just being released through people like ourselves. We could have put it on this show. Everybody could listen to it, make their own mind up. There seems to be a reluctance to go down that road, but Hearts have got it. And they'll be basing, I'm guessing, their decision-making around what it is that they're hearing on that tape. And as I said to you, there's a belief that Don Robertson says clearly on audio at some point, at what point I do not know, that the game has been called and it's reached a conclusion. So there we have it. More questions than answers, probably. I have asked if Don Robertson was acting under the instructions of the police. That hasn't been confirmed to me. I think that until such times as this audio becomes more freely available, we won't be able to make our own minds up. But what I'm saying is Hearts at least are making their decisions based upon being able to listen to what was said between the officials at the sort of frantic closing moments of Saturday's game. So whatever happens now, if Hearts take it any further, it'll be probably because there's something in the audio they're not happy with. And if Hearts don't take it any further, then maybe they've heard or heard enough to satisfy their position on it or that of the SFA and the officials. But yeah, I think that is important because it explains a lot. It explains, we had a missing minute and then we had a missing statement. Now I think I've got a good idea why that statement wasn't released because clearly there's been a lot of back channeling going on. And as I said, the officials at Hearts, they've listened to it. They've got it in their possession. They know exactly what was said by whom and when. And that's, I would imagine that the timeline's all pretty critical in this.
So, Jacko, are you saying then that Hearts have listened to the audio before putting out that statement? And
no, Hearts put out a statement originally on the Saturday night, Scott, saying that they were saying, about the safety and security of the players, explaining why they left the stadium, I think. And it's my understanding that they were going to allude to this missing minute in that original statement and then decided against doing that because they wanted to release a second statement on the Sunday. That second statement is there's a missing minute and a missing statement. The statement didn't come, and I believe that before or as they were working on that statement, and it was pertaining purely, I think, to the kind of circumstances around the game finishing, they were then supplied the audio and have based whatever decisions they've made since then. I'm fairly certain that they'll have factored in what it is that they've heard from that audio. Now, is that the end of the matter? I don't know, but it certainly would suggest to me that Hearts wanted to say something over the weekend and chose not to, and they chose not to after they'd listened to the audio.
Yeah,
I mean, hopefully that's the end of it, I would say.
I don't think. Hopefully, not for me. I'm not satisfied with any of it. I don't feel comfortable with any of it. And I think in the name of openness and transparency, I think the best thing would be for it to be publicly released, and everybody can hear what was said, and everybody can then make their own assessment based on that.
That's a good point. You'd have thought, why not just release it?
Well, that's why, you know, I made an argument for it, us being able to put it out tonight, so that everybody could hear it, our viewers could listen to it and make their own assessment. And I think once you're given that opportunity, and I imagine it will have to be released at some point, and when it is, then people can get a better understanding. I think also, on a purely human level, you'll get a better understanding of what it must have felt like to be Don Robertson at that moment in time. Because that was a horrendous position for him to be in, as well as a horrendous position for Hearts and their players. Horrendous for the officials, because they realised the importance of that game and what was on it and what the outcome meant. And they were left in that position of, what do we do here?
You think for SFA's point of view, you know, if they're satisfied that Don Robertson handled it accordingly and the game was declared over, you know, given the furore, no, after the game, I thought it would have been the SFA's best interest to get it out there as soon as possible to try and quieten down the noise, surely.
But the problem, I think, fundamentally, that everybody's got with us, Scott, is the game didn't play the minimum requirement of added time.
Of course.
And that's the circle that's really difficult to square in all of this. And I totally accept the common sense argument that was put forward by Des Roach last night. What are you going to do? Get the teams off the pitch, wait in the tunnel, get the pitch cleared. How long is that going to take? Take the teams back out, and then risk a second pitch invasion when the final whistle goes half a minute later or a minute later, whenever that is. So you're actually taking a difficult security situation and then compounding it. But again, it does come back to the fact that if you've got a designated number of minutes and added time, you've pretty much got to play them. I get the common sense part of it, but there's something unsatisfactory about the whole thing for me.
Yeah. Rebel said in the comments there, Keith, that surely if there was anything Hearts were unhappy about in the audio they've seen, they'd be screaming for the rooftops.
You would that would be an automatic conclusion to make, Rebel. I totally agree with that, unless there was something in there that has required them to speak to legal people to get a further assessment on what their position should be. If there's something in it that they don't like, and I'm not saying that that's the case, I'm merely speculating.
Aye, of course. We'll look at any updates, and I'm sure we'll be the first to break it here on Hotline Live, as we usually do.